Welcome you to the February 28th City Council meeting for the City of Sierra Madre. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Madam City Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Thank you, sir. Mayor Edward Garcia.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Callie Krebs. Here. Councilmember Jean Goss.
Here.
Councilmember Chris Lowe.
Present.
And Councilmember Robert Parkhurst.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum this evening.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. I'm going to ask for approval of the meeting agenda. I know it's not substantive, but I'm going to pull the Pledge of Allegiance before the presentation, so we can do that first before our wonderful presentation. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda as changed?
Move to approve the agenda as changed.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously. We have an agenda. Okay, if you're able, please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we'll get to the presentation quickly. I just wanted to open this meeting in recognition of Black History Month as we're on the last day of February and pay tribute to the generations of African Americans who struggled with adversity to achieve full citizenship here in American society, and to recognize the importance of Black history in the drama of the American story. And with that, I'd like to get started with our exciting presentation. And welcome everybody here tonight. I'd like to introduce LAPD Detective Chris Reza to sing the national anthem. Please rise.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave?
That was wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for that, Detective Reza. I'd like to now have our City Manager, Jose Reynoso, give a brief introduction of our new police chief.
Thank you, Mayor. Chief of Police Gustavo Barrientos was born and raised in Los Angeles. He earned his bachelor's degree in sociology and criminology from California State University, Northridge. He is married to his junior high sweetheart and has a son and 3 stepchildren. Chief Barrientos began his career 28 years ago with the Los Angeles Police Department. 18 of those years were in a leadership role. He rose through the ranks of the Los Angeles Police Department as a police officer 2 and 3, sergeant, lieutenant, detective 1, 2, and 3. In his assignments include patrol, bikes, traffic, special problems unit, field training officer, gang enforcement, field sergeant, complaint sergeant, watch commander, homicide, officer in charge of narcotics, assistant officer in charge of detective, and investigator. Chief Barrientos also served the Sierra Madre Police Department part-time for 7 years. His assignments included patrol, sergeant, watch commander, and administrative lieutenant. He has received numerous commendations and awards in his tenure, including the Los Angeles Police Department Chief's Recognition Award. Chief Barrientos will use his experience and resources to promote a community policing leadership style focused on building partnership-oriented strategies with our community stakeholders. Mayor, City Council, residents and businesses of Sierra Madre, it's my pleasure to introduce our new chief, Gus Barrientos.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. That's quite an impressive list of accomplishments. We're thrilled to have you. If I can now introduce LA County Superior Court Judge Lucy Armendariz. Are you here? Yes? All right. And you'll be doing the swearing in of our new police chief. If you could
pleasure to be here this evening with you. As I said, my name is Lucy Armendariz. I'm a judge at LA County Superior Court. I preside over criminal trials at the downtown courthouse, as you guys like to call it, the criminal courts building. I like to do felony trials there. And I was born and raised in East LA, Boyle Heights, as we call it, and that's where I met your new chief, Gus Barrientos. We went to high school at Roosevelt High School. And for those of you who know Roosevelt High School and who know East LA and Boyle Heights and the Hollenbeck Station, you know it's a very special place. And it's a tough place too, but it holds a very special place, especially in the culture of Los Angeles. What challenged it for me was hardly ideal. When I was 8 years old, my mother was sentenced to life in prison. And she's still in prison today. And I always say this to, especially to the young kids, to remind them that when you make the wrong choices in your life, the consequences of those actions will follow you. I was placed in foster homes from the age of 8 until I aged out at the age of 18. Back then, they would just kick you out on your 18th birthday. I remember having caseworkers who really seemed to care about me and even worry about me, but I knew they were too overwhelmed with all their cases to have any real special attention for me. I also remember the judge that ordered the placement of me into foster care. He couldn't pronounce my last name. He seemed even busier than my social workers. I remember wondering if he knew that I was 8 years old and inside his courtroom. That's one of the reasons that today that as a judge, I always try to look everyone in the eye. And even though I don't have a lot of time with them, I try to make sure that they were heard and seen, they had their day in court, and that they were treated with respect. That's why today it's also my distinct honor to swear in your new chief, Gus Barrientos, as your next chief of police of the city of Sierra Madre. I don't think you understand how lucky you are to have him as your new chief. He knows that we must hold people accountable for their actions. He understands that people's choices have consequences, but he also shares in the belief of truly protecting victims. Mr. Barrientos understands that our communities are safe, healthy, and whole. We must be dedicated to transforming the criminal legal system that is more just and equitable for all our people. So with that, without further ado, let's do the honors. Do we have the oath?
the oath.
Maybe we don't have the oath.
1 minute.
I have a generic oath, but want to make sure we do the right one for the city.
Yeah, I think, Madam City Clerk's gonna grab it right now. Thank you.
So how about them Dodgers?
Yes.
Poor Gavin.
Yes.
Poor Gavin looks.
Angels.
No,
Angels.
No, Gavin looks.
I know.
You could get your pictures in now. Should only do the pictures.
What's that?
Should I give her the law enforcement oath?
I think Laura will be here in a second.
Rough Riders.
Taking pictures. Yeah. Nope. All right. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, and state your name,
I, Gustavo Barrientos,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
and defend
and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
that I will well and faithfully
that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of Chief of Police
of Chief of Police
of the City of Sierra Madre.
of the City of Sierra Madre.
Congratulations, Chief.
It's my honor to officially introduce you to the Sierra Madre Chief of Police, Gustavo Barrientos. And we're going to have and his son Aiden is pinning him right now.
Doesn't look anything like
I'll introduce a couple of dignitaries, and then we have Declan Floyd from Senator Portantino's office in the back there. Thank you, Declan, for showing up. Do we have somebody from Supervisor Barger's office? Not yet? Okay. All right. Chief, it's all yours.
Just going to say a few words. Good evening, Mayor Garcia, City Council, and thank you all for joining us tonight. I'm truly grateful and energized by the number of supporters of the Sierra Madre Police Department. When I joined the department 7 years ago, I never imagined that one day I would be standing here before you as a Chief of Police of your department. In those 7 years, while I've had the opportunity to work for and with a new family of law enforcement officers, I've also cultivated a profound appreciation for the city and its commitment, community members that appreciation has allowed me to immerse myself into this, serving those we protect in the Sierra Madre. I pledge my total commitment in gaining access to relevant instruction, training, and equipment necessary to continue to remain a professional in small-town policing. I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge my mentors and coworkers that have been alongside me and are responsible for my success throughout this journey. They have been steadfast in their commitment to make me the best that I can be for my 28 years in law enforcement. First and foremost, Los Angeles Police Department, particularly Deputy Chief Ellen Hamilton, retired Captain Sharon Buck, retired Captain Stephen Carmona, who's here, current Captain Elaine Morales that's in the front, and my current captain, who I admire deeply, and I can't tell you enough good things about Captain Sonia Monaco. She's been my greatest supporter, my greatest mentor, and I think I'm standing before you, and a lot of it has to do with her. They have all been instrumental in my development. A few others I would like to mention that have been instrumental are retired and former Sierra Madre Police Chief Jim Hunt. Jim Hunt, I can't thank you enough. He has been my mentor in this new journey into small town policing. So thank you for everything you've done. You've paved the way. I can't say just how high on a pedestal I hold you. Thank you. Also, former Sierra Madre Police Chief who's here, Chief Joe Ortiz, very instrumental. Former Sierra Madre Police Chief Roderick Armelin, he's somewhere in here. Former Sierra Madre Police Captain Donna White, where's Donna? Love you. And then another good guy, Montebello Police Chief Paul Espinoza, San Marino PD Police Chief John Encontro, and last but not least, former Sierra Madre CSO Lou Oranos. Second, the Sierra Madre City Council, the mayor, city manager, assistant city manager, deputy city manager, and all city staff who have been steadfast in support of my position of providing leadership to your police department. Finally, I trust that with my faith, my lovely wife, Yesenia, my son, Aiden, and all of my family and friends, we will enjoy our next phase of my career and the positive growth of your Sierra Madre Police Department. So thank you, everybody. Guests, I'm very humbled by everybody's presence. If you can please join us immediately after this, myself and my family, for a small reception at the Hart House, which is directly behind this building. Thank you, everybody, for attending.
I'd like to welcome the council if we have any remarks for our new chief. Councilmember Lowe.
Welcome to our city. I know you've been here for 7 years. We're so excited to have you and your family, and welcome everyone to this exciting event.
Yes. Councilmember Goss.
Just want to give you a congratulations, Chief. Great to have you aboard.
Parkhurst.
I feel like we're the safest city in San Gabriel Valley tonight. But yes, truly thank you. You know, it's great to see new blood in here, people that understand a small city. Really honored to have you join us. So congratulations and welcome.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, I just echo all of my colleagues' thoughts, and just very excited to have your leadership and to have you continue along. It's great that you know our city, and we're really excited to see you grow into this new role.
Yeah, Chief Barrientos, welcome. I think the first time I met you formally, you were with former Chief Armelin. I believe it was a Wisteria Festival, or one of our many events here in town. And you guys were together, and you were engaging with our residents. And if you know Sierra Madre, that means a lot to us. And I thought at that time, this guy's only part-time. How are we going to get him full-time, right? So now you're our chief. So welcome, and we're excited to have you. All right. So now I'm going to have a 10-minute break, so everyone has an opportunity to kind of get up and go to the reception. But it's an honor to have so many police chiefs here, former Sierra Madre police and everybody from the area. As Councilmember Parker said, we are definitely in the safest room, I think, in probably the nation right now. So anytime you want to come back, you're more than welcome. Thank you. I don't know if that was 10 minutes or not, but we'll call it 10 minutes. All right, if we call the meeting back to order, back to city business. If I can get approval for reading resolution, or a motion to approve reading resolutions and ordinances by title only.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously. All right, so now we are on to
Approval of meeting minutes.
approval of meeting minutes. We have two sets of minutes, January 12th special meeting and a February 7th special meeting. So if we have any substantive changes? None? Okay.
I move to approve the minutes.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carries unanimously. All right, moving along. Mayor and city council reports. Who would like to start?
I'll go first.
Please.
Just a quick one. I attended as liaison the Community Services Commission meeting last Wednesday. Didn't have a very full agenda. They did approve the special event permit for Wisteria. So the Wisteria Festival is on Sunday the 19th of March. They had some interesting conversations about parks, but there were no action items, so there's nothing to report. And that's my report.
Thank you.
Similarly, I attended the Natural Resource Commission meeting last week. Got a preview of our sidewalk presentation today, so got to be in the know before anybody else. And they talked, Management Analyst Carlson presented the same presentation that we had regarding Athens and the updates to that and the process that we're going through there. And so no real action items, but they're planning Earth Day, and they're also looking to augment the city's website with various energy savings strategies and rebates and things like that. And also, I think, perhaps include some of the relief programs that Southern California Gas Company is providing for customers. So.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
I helped MC for the Downtown Business District Town Hall meeting. It was hosted by the Chamber of Commerce as well as the Department of Public Works. And it was very, very exciting. I think it went really well. It was attended by a lot of the major business owners that have the businesses in front of where the project is about to take place. Director Semino led the meeting, and he introduced a number of topics dedicated to the downtown district, specifically the new formation of the downtown assessment district and how funds will be applied, including the downtown areas and the back parking lots, public parking lots. He also spent a good time getting input from all the different businesses, the business owners and managers, and answered a lot of questions, and the presentation went very well. He'll be telling us more about it later.
Thank you, Councilmember Lowe.
I also attended the town hall for the downtown business district. So actually, we heard the presentation on sidewalk on the 15th of February. So I think, let's see, who hasn't seen it now? I also had 3 meetings of the Clean Power Alliance. 2 of them had to do with a lobby day, a virtual lobby day that we did. And one of them was with our Assembly member, Holden. And some of the things that he is focused on in this upcoming legislative session is long duration storage, as well as expanding our grid to a regional grid. And so, right now we've got the California Independent System Operator, which dispatches load throughout the state. The regional grid will expand that, and that will create better planning and more stability of the grid. The other is we also met with the governor's office, and it's exciting to hear that the state has made a multi-billion-dollar investment around energy to increase our reliability, to speed the clean energy transition, to expand transmission planning, and to work on local distribution. So it's really exciting. You know, if we're going to be electrifying everything, we're going to need to have that type of infrastructure, and this type of focus on infrastructure is really going to help us, and we've got the money behind it. So that's everything I've got.
Thank you. So on February 16th, I attended the San Gabriel Valley Council of Governments meeting. A lot of discussion about the capital projects going on in the San Gabriel Valley through the COG. I was surprised at the size of these capital projects. Most of them have to do with mobility, so bridges or underpasses for trains for safety and or the flow of traffic at large intersections. Also, they're working on the 5760 interchange right there, there's a lot of weaving going on, and they're trying to alleviate that so there's less accidents. So there's a lot of work being done at the COG. On February 22nd, I attended the sanitation district meeting. There was a pretty big update for the January numbers, and the financial review was presented as well. There were 3 billion gallons that came through, 23 tons of biosolids. You know, they put in a number of truckloads, 940 truckloads of compost has come out of there. 12,000 tons of food waste slurry has come through there. That's 480 truckloads. 32,000 megawatts of energy has been created from this. So that's powering basically 43,000 homes. It's pretty amazing what they're doing with our wastewater. Also, we got the update on COVID, the flu, and RSV. As far as COVID's concerned, since the end of January, there's been a slight increase, but nothing too large. The flu, since November to December, it's been very low. Not much flu coming through the wastewater. And RSV is also down. We see some spikes here and there when you look at the graph, but really it's the magnitude is very, very small as well. On the 23rd, I attended the Board of Supervisors meeting. Really nothing to talk about there, not a lot of action. On the 26th, I attended the Sierra Madre Girls Softball Association opening day. I was able to introduce the 51st season of that association. It's wonderful. I was accompanied by Community Services Commissioner David Uch, who said a few words as well. They expanded from 22 teams last year to 30 teams this year. So there was quite an expansion with Sierra Madre Girls Softball. And then finally, yesterday, the 27th, was a Board of Trustees meeting for the library. And we had Deputy Director Yanez give an update on the RFP process for the library, as well as the foundation gave an update on how they can try to help with the facilities, the library foundation that is, as well as the Friends of the Library. And that concludes my report. I do have a few announcements on behalf of the city. Reminder that on March 9th, our Community Services and Public Library will host a joint town hall meeting at the Sierra Madre Library. Flyers for the event are in the back of the room. There's still time to register. You can scan the QR code on the flyer, or call the library, or visit eventbrite.com to register. Also, the Sierra Madre Fire Department EMS division will be hosting an event. The event is called Stop the Bleed and Basic First Aid. This event will be held at the fire station on March 12th at 2 p.m. Again, March 12th at 2 p.m. You'll learn how to treat basic first aid in a bleeding emergency before professional help arrives. I think that's very handy to know. Registration is required for this event as well, and you can find the flyers in the back of the room too. Also, the Wisteria Festival is scheduled for March 19th. Save the date and come out and visit our local shops, crafters, food vendors, and the Sierra Madre Auto Show. Flyers are in the back. And finally, the Sierra Madre Fire Department is again hosting the SMART program, S-M-A-R-T, which is a wildfire home resilience training class. Class helps you prepare your home for wildfire. And also, all residents above Grandview are encouraged to participate to receive free curbside vegetation hauling and chipping Registration is required for this event, and the flyers are also in the back. I have taken advantage of this myself. I live on Grandview, but on the north side, and it was wonderful. I was able to take a lot of vegetation out of the back of my yard, have it there on the street. They pulled up with a chipper and got rid of all of it. So it's a great service for our community, and it also helps abate a lot of the vegetation that could be a problem for wildfires. With that, that concludes my report and announcements. Okay. Now I'd like to open it up for public comment for items not on the agenda. You have 3 minutes, and also if you could fill out a yellow card and hand it to our city clerk, that would be appreciated. Madam City Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our first speaker this evening is Mary Carney.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Mary Carney, and I'm speaking tonight on behalf of the Sierra Madre Women's Club. I've been here twice before on the subject, but we're coming up on our very first annual, hopefully, St. Patty's Day golf tournament. It's March 17th. Now, I know that one of the most important things about golf is that it's outside. And so in the last several weeks, we've had lots of rain, and everybody's been inside. So I'm hoping, and I would ask you all to join with me, that starting March 12th or 13th, that we have an absolute 1 week of fabulous weather. Not too hot because we don't want the snow to melt very quickly. Not too cold. We don't want the vine to burst into bloom and die before everybody gets a chance to see it. And so I'm asking on behalf of Friday the 17th and Sunday the 19th that you all help us get wonderful weather. We're also, of course, looking for sponsorships and participation. And I have some flyers that I put in the back there for anybody who's interested. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Carney.
Mr. Mayor, our next speaker is Pat Kroc from the Senior Community Commission.
Good evening, Chair Kroc.
Good evening, council members and City of Sierra Madre. Pat Kroc, Senior Community Commission Chairman this year. Couple of announcements that the applications for the Sierra Madre Older American are still going on. You must be a resident of Sierra Madre, 60 or plus, and have serviced or, served around the community and sponsored items there. Applications are available at the HPH, Hart Park House, and they are due on March 16th. May 10th will be the reception at the Hart Park House for the nominee. The bus tour for the Senior Commission and Sierra Madre Seniors is in full registration mode. The deadline to apply to go on the bus is March 9th. We're heading out to the Autry Museum and for lunch at the winery in San Antonio, not Texas, but here, yeah. San Antonio Winery. And for the hot bingo game in March 16th, we're combining a St. Patrick's Day theme with the bingo and prizes. And just real quick, Monday, March 13th, 7 o'clock, the Hart Park House will be a talk from a representative from the San Gabriel Valley mosquito vector. So come on by and we'll learn how to swat mosquitoes this coming year. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Kroc. If you know, the Older Americans applications, they're available at the Hart Park House. Anywhere else? Are they online as well?
Park House, online, I think
The library has some, and they're also available online. Thank you, Chair Kroc. Madam City Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The third speaker is David Gordon.
Mr. Gordon.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to make a suggestion that the city create a program to help the building projects of not-for-profits. I came to a council meeting a few council meetings ago, and there was a successful application for the Mills Act, which allows the owners of private homes to use a tax-exempt period in order to work on putting their house back into its historical position. It was going to cost the city something like $76,000 over the lifetime. It's a wonderful program. I'm fully in support of it. We have to protect our architectural heritage. Not-for-profits are not eligible for the Mills Act. And one of the reasons that the city was unable to grant city funds for the Playhouse when the request was made was because there was no program to do so. You can't be seen to be helping just one organization. So I'm suggesting that such a program be considered, not just for the Playhouse, but also for other not-for-profits in the house. I'm thinking in particular of the Women's Club, where they have a wonderful building, they have no money to fix it up, and unless they get help from the city, it may be very difficult for them to raise the funds to do it themselves. So it's not just us for whom I'm speaking. So I would like that suggestion to be considered. Onto the Playhouse, I've had a word with the chief, and he'll be coming to the Playhouse on a regular basis with all his attendants in place. So we're going to be full up for months to come. So you better book your tickets soon for the next production we have is a musical on the life of Lady Di. It's called Die, Lady Die. And this wonderful woman, Charlotte Manson, plays the part not only of Lady Diana, but also of Prince Charles, as he then was, and also her father, Earl Spencer, and her mother, and her stepmother, and everybody else. It's a wonderful, wonderful performance. Because we now tend to put films on that have some kind of relationship with our productions, we are showing Roman Holiday tomorrow, a film that's celebrating its 70th anniversary. And what's its connection with Lady Di? Well, it's also about a princess who managed to escape her minders. Somewhat tenuous connection, but I hope you all can come and see us there. Finally, just to say how wonderful it was to go to the presentation about the downtown. The whole move in cities is to make relatively small interventions to make places better, more pleasant, more agreeable. And it's a very good initiative, which I fully support and hope can also be expanded to the north side of the boulevard so that the bump out in front of the Playhouse can be extended. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gordon.
Mr. Mayor, there are no other speaker cards, and the city did not receive any emails for items not on the agenda.
Thank you. Now on to our consent calendar. We have 3 items on consent. Questions for council? Do we have any questions on item A? Yes, Madam City Clerk, could you please read the consent items by title only?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The City Council this evening is being asked to consider Resolution 2319, approving certain demands and approving the payment of city warrants, library warrants, and payroll transfer. The City Council is also being asked to consider City Council Resolution 23-20, approving the transfer of fund balances from the General Fund to the new Consolidated District Downtown Landscaping and Lighting Maintenance District. And lastly, the City Council is being asked to consider the San Gabriel Valley Municipal Water District Water Conservation Grant in the amount of $50,000, and the City Council is asked to accept that grant. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you. All right, now to council questions. Any questions on item A? B? C? Nope. Okay, I'd like to open up to public comment. Do we have any cards, Madam City Clerk?
We do not, Mr. Mayor.
Any emails?
No emails either.
Thank you. Seeing no public comment, do we have a motion?
Before we make a motion, I just want to...
Comments?
Yeah, just a quick comment. Well, do we want to go through them all?
No, feel
Okay.
free. Yeah.
So just a comment on item C. I'm really excited to see this grant. with and kudos to the analyst, and I'm blanking on your Jenna Norwood, analyst Norwood. Thank you for putting that together. I'm excited to see the plans come out and the thoughts on with the rest of the $33,000 or $34,000 and some of the potential ideas that we've got on it. I think it's going to be a great asset to the community, and I'm going to look very closely at those plans when they come out in June and see what I can do with my house on them. So thank you.
Thank you. Any more comments on consent? All right, do we have a motion to approve?
Move to approve the consent items.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously. All right, moving right along, we have 2 public hearings. And who's presenting the first one?
Planner Wolf.
Planner Wolf.
Good evening, Council. Tonight I'm happy to present the staff report for the tentative parcel map for a project at 182 South Baldwin Avenue. Applicant is requesting for the subdivision of property for a 4-unit condominium project. This is being considered by City Council under Resolution 23-21. And the applicant also requested for the construction of that 4-unit condominium project, which was approved by the Planning Commission on January 19th, 2023. This is a project that will be exempt from the CEQA under section, CEQA being California Environmental Quality Act, under section 15315 and 15303 for minor land divisions and new construction. The project is located on South Baldwin Avenue between Lowell and East Bonita Avenue. It's highlighted on screen in orange. The property has a general land use and zoning designation for residential high density at 13 dwelling units per acre, at 4 dwelling units on a 13,482 square foot lot. The density translates to 12.9 dwelling units per acre, maintaining consistency with Sierra Madre's general plan. On a regional context, the property is located within a centralized urbanized area of the city and would replace an existing single-family development. There are no protected fish and wildlife habitats that would be impacted by the project. Also on screen is highlighted in yellow. This is for historic context. This is the Sierra Bonita Ranch. It takes access right now from Lowell, but historically used to take access from South Baldwin Avenue, where the entrance to 182 South Baldwin shows that original entrance. And this original entrance with these stone pillars will be preserved through the development of the condominium project. So here's just some photos of the existing property for reference. Here's top down. Baldwin's on the left side of the slide here. The front of the property is on the left. Rear's to the right of the slide. You can see multiple photographs starting with the front and surrounding areas of the property. And you can see how it is densely vegetated at the moment. Moving on to the project's data, the subdivision for parcel map and for condominium purposes contemplates the land in joint ownership without alteration to the physical dimensions or area of the land. So the land area does remain as it is existing. Building coverages do not include the driveway because it is proposed with permeable pavers. Height is measured from the proposed finished grade at 26 feet 3 inches, but is nonetheless compliant when considering the lower existing grade by adding 3 feet, thus being at 29 feet and 3 inches, where the requirement is 30 feet. And this just demonstrates more compliancy with the setbacks. The primary improvement, a development for 4-unit condominium project, is designed within 2 detached buildings and meets standards of development, including density, setbacks, height, and articulation. Now on screen is the proposed site plan that demonstrates each of the units. On the left is South Baldwin Avenue. On the south end of the site will be the proposed 12-foot wide driveway, which provides access into 2 car garages for each unit. Those garages will be attached at the ground floor to each unit, and each unit will have its own second floor for bedroom space. So the design of the subdivision with proposed driveway placed approximately 6 feet from the wall located at South Baldwin Avenue here on the lower left of that slide. Is located on the southern part of the property. It allows for adequate line of sight for pedestrian intersection. Thus, it is not likely to cause serious public health problems, nor will the proposed use be a detriment to the public health, safety, and general welfare, nor unreasonably interfere with the use, possession, and enjoyment of surrounding and adjacent properties. Following slide shows a conceptual rendering in 3D view, and this is viewed from the southern end of the property at Baldwin, looking in towards that property. Here is a colored rendering of the front elevation. It's not in perspective. This is just meant to demonstrate a concept for the colors. Let me know if I'm moving too fast, by the way. So to approve a tentative parcel map, the City Council will need to make the following findings. First, that the proposed map is consistent with the Sierra Madre General Plan. Second, that the design of the proposed subdivision is consistent with the Sierra Madre General Plan. That the site is physically suitable for a condominium development. The site is physically suitable for a proposed density at 4 dwelling units, which is 13 dwelling units to the acre. That the design of the subdivision and proposed improvements are not likely to cause substantial environmental damage or pose threat to fish and wildlife habitats. The design of the subdivision is and proposed improvements are not likely to cause serious public health problems. And finally, the design of the subdivision and proposed improvements do not conflict with any public utility or access easements. The alternatives before the City Council tonight are to adopt Resolution 23-21 as presented that conditionally approves tentative parcel map 2202. The other alternatives are to approve the resolution with modifications, deny the request, citing findings the City Council cannot make and the basis for rejecting those findings, or continue the public hearing, providing direction to staff and the applicant. Staff is making the recommendation to adopt City Council Resolution 23-21 as presented, conditionally approving the tentative parcel map. That concludes my presentation. The applicant, the owner, and their architect are here tonight if you have questions for them, and I'm happy to take any questions right now.
Thank you, Planner Wolf. Let's bring this back to council for any questions.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, please.
Just a clarification on slide 11. Is it my understanding that, or is my understanding correct that the green is the first floor and the brown is the second floor for the units on there? That's what those are supposed to represent?
That's what I've tried to visually represent, yes.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Thank you. Councilmember Lowe?
May I please ask, what are the other zoning areas around that neighborhood?
Thank you
What
for the
is the
question. Yes, good question. Thank you. So to the south and to the east of the property is property zoned for single-family residential. To the north, thank you, and to the west are properties zoned for high-density residential.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If I can follow up, so this, so 182, kind of, if you drew a line across it, things to the north are R3, things to the south are R1?
That is correct. So properties facing East Baldwin Avenue here, just to the south and directly adjacent to the subject property, are zoned for single-family residential. Properties to the east are also zoned for single-family residential. And properties north facing Baldwin, as well as across the street, are all zoned for high-density residential.
So we went through this in a couple meetings in the past, so can you help educate me on why is the line there? It seems like kind of an odd spot on it. How did we historically come to that delineation?
That delineation predates me by a long shot. So what I can say is that the general plan in 2015 called out for the rezoning of many of these properties facing Baldwin to be single-family residential, and that rezoning took effect around 2020. Then, following that, there was a lot of concern from citizens who were being affected by a downzoning, and City Council's response to that was to grant the zone it was allowed prior to that downzone.
So the general plan, if I remember correctly, the general plan said, I don't know how we drew the line, but basically at Bonita, is that right there?
Yeah.
Bonita and north was R3, and Bonita and south of Bonita was R1? No.
No, the general plan had them all R1. That was the change.
Originally, prior to 2020.
The land use designation.
Was all R1, thank you.
It was the conflict.
Right, I remember it was the conflict, but so the general plan, but the zoning was all.
Zoning map wasn't complete. That was the issue.
Yeah.
It was land use designation, residential low density.
And we changed it to residential high density at a previous meeting, right? And at the basically the break point of where these properties are.
That's my recollection. Planner Wolf?
Yeah, I believe that's correct. So the 2015 general plan called out for land uses here at single-family residential. There was a zoning change taking place much later after the general plan was approved. That kind of caused the store to then direct staff to initiate a re-up zone, essentially calling it several kinds of.
Okay.
Yeah, my understanding. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Just sent us back to the status quo, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
We didn't make that delineation. That's the way it's been for a long time.
That's right, because it predated even the prior,
Yeah.
the 2015 general plan. It went back. Okay. Thank you all for reminding me of that.
Any more? Yes.
So
Mayor Pro Tem.
we received, and I think you're aware, public comment from the neighbor just to the south of this proposed development, and I understand that same correspondence was provided to the Planning Commission during their deliberations. Was there any discussion among the Planning Commission or in response to that, and were there any alterations or other actions taken in response to that, or what was the nature of the discussion?
There was responses concerning the plate height at the ground floor. Though it wasn't conditioned to, I did discuss this with the applicant to see if they would be open to reducing the top plate height of the ground floor. This would, by result, kind of get a lower building height, essentially. But in my discussions, we found out that the top plate height at 10 feet at the ground floor is necessary to accommodate HVAC, ducting, and that kind of thing. It's actually going to lower the ceiling height by about a foot, so you're still going to get an effective floor-to-ceiling height of 9 feet, which is pretty consistent with the second floor.
Thank you.
Councilmember Goss, any questions?
No.
Yeah, I believe I watched this Planning Commission meeting online. From what I recall, there weren't really any variances asked for, so really this was, and there was no design review available to the commission, so it's pretty much within our code, everything that our code sets forth. Is that correct?
Correct. The project is entirely code compliant.
Okay. Any more questions before we open this public hearing to public comment? No? Thank you, Planner Wolf. Fantastic as usual.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing, so let's open the public hearing up for public comment. Do we have any speaker cards?
There are no speaker cards, Mr. Mayor. There was one email.
I think one's coming right now.
I stand corrected. There was one email that was received earlier and forwarded to the City Council, and we have Kathy Watson.
Thank you. Ms. Watson, please.
Kathy Watson, and my husband and I live at 150 South Baldwin, which is 2 doors north of the proposed project. And if you look at the current home that's existing, you see very clearly that it's been quite neglected for many years, and it's certainly not attractive as it is. And we think that our neighbor has a good project and that it's an appropriate place to put such a project, and so we support the project, and we encourage you to approve the resolution.
Thank you, Ms. Watson.
Mr. Mayor, the next speaker is David Gordon.
David Gordon, Fairview Avenue. I'd like to speak in support of the application. We need greater density in the downtown part of Sierra Madre. My only reservation is it's hard to judge the architecture from a brief presentation like that, but it doesn't look as distinctive and as wonderful as one would hope. It's in the style of architecture that I call mission mishmash. That's to say, you take a few elements from mission, put it together, but the scaling, the height, the way the buildings look, doesn't sing when you look at it. I would urge the applicant to try and improve the quality of the architecture.
Thank you, Mr. Gordon.
Mr. Mayor, there are no other speaker cards.
Okay, let's bring it back to council for discussion. Any comments, discussion?
I was at that planning commission meeting, and it was a good, thorough presentation. We saw the plans. The planning commission discussed keeping the stone entrance pillars that were right there, and the applicant agreed that it's a nice asset to keep on that property. It's traditional and historical to our town.
Thank you.
Well, I didn't see the planning commission meeting, but I've read all the reports, and it seems like this is kind of a slam dunk. I think the applicants met all the requirements that the law requires. I think everything is reasonable. I agree with with the earlier comment that, there's no accounting for taste. I might quibble a little bit with the design of the architecture, but it's good enough.
Thank you. Yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
I would just say that this is probably one of the first reviews of this nature that I think we've had since I've been on council, and I just wanted to highlight the difference in terms of the level of review. I mean, to Councilmember Goss's point, we might quibble with the design, but that is actually not under our purview or the city or the planning commission's purview to actually weigh in on these days because of all of our state laws. So it's just an interesting juxtaposition with other projects that do require certain variances or other requests for variances from our code, and then the discretion that gives us to negotiate around things like design and other elements. But this, I think, because as stated, is well within our parameters and our ordinances. I don't think, frankly, there's much for us to pass on other than approving the resolution.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
I agree with my colleagues. It seems straightforward. They've met everything required by law. They've met all of our ordinances. So, it's a generally tasteful done project, and I see no reason to oppose it in any way.
Yeah, and I'm of like mind. Somebody passed an article along to me that was in the Star News yesterday that had to do with the HCD and the regional housing needs assessment and housing elements of different cities. And I was surprised, and then so I went down the primrose path. I started pulling data and filtering data and looking at data, and I was surprised that in LA County alone, there are 50 jurisdictions that are out of compliance, which means what? It's the builder's remedy. And we see La Cañada now faced with a 5-story, 80-unit complex on Foothill. We see similar things happening in South Pasadena and other municipalities that are out of compliance. So I am grateful that we have a housing element that was in full compliance with HCD. It seems like it's rare in LA County, and we were able to do that. Hopefully, increasing a little bit of occupancy helps our RENA numbers for the next housing element cycle. And along the boulevard is probably generally where higher density belongs. So I'm in support of this since it's meeting all our codes. and our zoning. With that, do we have a motion?
I move to approve the adoption of City Council Resolution 23-21 as presented for the conditionally approved tentative parcel map 22-02.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Parkers. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries unanimously, and the public hearing is closed. Thank you. Moving along to our second public hearing.
Captain Amos will be presenting.
Welcome back, Captain Amos.
Hello.
How's the reception going next door?
How's
How's
it
the reception going next door?
I don't know. I was move, and then I got a text to come back here, so I'm back here.
Let's see if we can get you over there.
No, it's not a problem. It's not a problem. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Back in January 24th of this year, I presented our CCW and fee amendments. I was asked by council to look at a fee adjustment for the CCW application process, and that's what I bring today. In looking at other cities and talking with other departments, the average time for that I'm getting for the CCW process, the complete process, is about 4 hours. So based on that, I looked at who will be involved in the process and who was our highest personnel involved in that, and that was our chief. So I took a price rate mid salary for the chief's position, and calculate that over the 4 hours, and came up with the updated fee of $442.36. This is right about average for the departments that I surveyed. We're a little bit above, but not too much above. So additionally, that would change our initial application fee, which is the non-refundable fee, which is 20% of that $442, and that will be $87. So those are the two changes from January 24th. The additional $150 for the pass-through fee for the psych exam, that hasn't changed. The amendment application fee hasn't changed, and the replacement card fee hasn't changed as well.
Thank you, Captain Amos. Do we have any questions for Captain Amos?
None for me.
Very thorough, and you were here before.
Yes.
So you looked at the average chief's salary?
In the process, it is, there are multiple folks that are involved in the background process, the process overall. We have reserves, we have our detective, we have a sergeant, we have our records, and we have our chief. So trying to compile all the different
Sort of a weighted average of those?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So the chief was the highest position. I took the mid-step of that position. That would probably average out to cover the sergeant's pay, the officer's pay, and our dispatcher's pay. Our reserve officers are volunteers, so they're free for the most part. So that's where I landed with the numbers.
Thank you. And Mr. City Attorney, so we can't exceed our direct cost. You feel that methodology fits within what we need to get done here?
Right, that's correct, yes.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any more questions. All right, since it's a public hearing, let's open it up to public comment. Madam City Clerk, have we received any comment cards?
No comment cards, Mr. Mayor, and no emails either.
Thank you. No comments? Okay, so we're going to close public comment and bring it back to discussion if we have anything to discuss here as a council.
I appreciate that it was, that the analysis was redone and that we increased the initial cost that we were looking at so that we as a city weren't out that money for others applications.
Yeah, so it's $442.36. As far as our fee schedule is concerned, do we have other similar numbers that aren't kind of round numbers? Does it cause any problems, or is it okay?
I don't think it causes any problems, Mayor, and again, we'll be looking at, as we process these applications, we'll be updating the new fee schedule with new numbers, so I don't think there's an issue.
Great. Any other commentary? Yes, please.
So we were talking about doing a more comprehensive fee study. I assume this will be part of that, or is that gonna be, we're gonna let this sort of progress over a period of time before anybody can really look at whether or not we're capturing the right number?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So the idea will be that as we process these applications, we'll get a better understanding of how much time each individual officer is involved with this, and we'll be able to get a more accurate reflection of the actual cost. The new fee schedule will reflect that actual cost.
And then the fee study that we're gonna do would or wouldn't include this fee? I thought we were doing an overall fee study for all of the fees.
We are doing an overall fee study. That fee study will likely, if it doesn't take place this fiscal year, it'll take place next fiscal year. However, the analysis that's done as we process these applications will be included in next year's fee schedule.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay.
We need to have a motion to adopt it, or is it?
Yeah, we do. In order to, we're gonna close this public hearing and see if we have a motion to adopt.
So let's see if I get this. So we'll move to adopt the amendments to the fiscal year 22-23 general fee schedule to include a carrying concealed weapon fees.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Carries unanimously. All right. Are we at the end of the agenda?
One more.
One more discussion.
Oh, one more discussion item. That's right. We're close. So, what's that? Yeah, so the sidewalks, you've all seen it. I think I saw a preliminary one, but
Sure you did.
Director Semino.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I won't bore you. We've seen this before. No. I know we want to go to a party next door. Tonight I bring you, I'm here to share with you the conceptual drawings for the downtown sidewalk enhancement project. This concept is brought to you tonight for your input and approval before staff moves forward with plans and specifications for the bidding process of the project. The Sierra Madre Public Works and Utility Department plan to coordinate a portion of the 2023-24 fiscal year water main replacement with the downtown sidewalk improvement project in the downtown assessment district area. The project includes improvements to enhance pedestrian traffic and allow for the enhanced sidewalk dining on West Sierra Madre Boulevard from the crosswalk at the Renaissance Plaza to the driveway of the Bank of the West parking lot, or the access to the Mariposa parking lot. The project will also include the replacement of a 70-year-old water main in Sierra Madre Boulevard. It's an 8-inch water main. It has become a water main under our watch because of recent leaks. We've had 7 major leaks on that line in the last couple of years. Due to the disruption of the businesses for leak repairs, staff is proposing to have that project completed at the same time as the sidewalk enhancement. Extending the sidewalk 10 feet, existing 10 feet by an additional 5 feet will allow for pedestrian traffic along with new tables and chairs for the dining restaurants on the sidewalk. So ADA access is 48 inches. So if we extend it by 5 feet, we're creating more space for those restaurants in that area to continue sidewalk dining. This slide here is just giving you a profile of what that 5 feet extension and how we will have to move the curb and gutter out. Slide 3, staff has created a conceptual drawing of the sidewalk enhancement and Americans with Disabilities Act improvements in the area of the construction. If you can recall there around the bottle shop, we have a ramp there for ADA at the end of the crosswalk. Well, that doesn't meet today's standards in any way. So what you have to have is a flat landing for the ramp, and then it can only be 6% going to the sidewalks. So this diagram here is showing how we can get it, if we move it out into the crown of the street, we can get that to almost be flat from the street to the sidewalk level. This is the conceptual drawing of the sidewalk enhancement showing the ADA ramps at the corners of Windsor Lane and across the street at the bottle shop. We're also going to include a handicap parking space at the west end of the project there at the drive approach for the Mariposa parking lot. Let's see if so in blue here is the ADA parking space, a little island, and then the driveway. Currently the driveway there also doesn't meet ADA standards. It ramps all the way to the back of sidewalk. There's no 2% flat area for the ADA access. So that drive approach will be replaced also. In doing so here, we would have to build a channel similar to what we have at the Bowouts. We will build a channel for water flow because this will be the new curb line running all the way down the street. So here there'll be a channel, and here at the handicap ramp. So the ramp there, or the parking space, I'm sorry, the parking space there will be zero curb. So similar to Kirstein Court that we have on the south side of there, we'll have a ballard in front for parking safety. But in order to get that at a 2% level landing for the car itself, for the van accessible parking spot, we will have to bring that front end up and then have it protected with ballards for there. And then after that, that first parking stall after it, first into second, will be kind of sloped, but those will be normal parking spots, so they don't have to meet that standard. You'll notice, like in grocery store parking lots, how all the new ADAs are like, parking stalls are all brought up, and then after them, they're leveled down to the existing grade. So the parking stall itself can be level. This is going to be tricky. Well, okay, I already covered that, sorry. The center line of the street will be moved 4 feet, 5 feet to the north, which will keep the two driving lanes will be 12 feet on on westbound, and then it'll be 14 feet for the eastbound traffic. Included with the project is Windsor Lane. At this time, staff is recommending changing Windsor Lane for this section to Montecito Avenue or Montecito Court there to a one-way street going northbound. What this is doing here is helping us meet the ADA standards for the corner for the new ramps on both ends. So those will be bowing out just a little bit, just like the other planter bow-outs do. And then going up Windsor Lane, it'll create another parking stall here because the drive lane will be on the west side. So we'll be creating another parking spot there on Windsor Lane, and also extending the sidewalk there on Windsor Lane by 2 feet on each side, which will make those ADA compatible. And then at the north side of Windsor Lane here, we will be ramping also for ADA accessibility. And the purpose for this also is to get more foot traffic from the Auburn parking lot. We find the Auburn parking lot is one of the most unutilized parking for the downtown, so we're trying to entice more traffic foot traffic from there. Let me see what I got here. On February 15th, staff held a town hall meeting to introduce the downtown sidewalk improvement project to the assessment district businesses and community. Staff received overwhelming support for the project. Some of the concerns that were in attendance of the project was the start date and the duration of the project, parking during and after, working hours, street closures, detour traffic, and sidewalk accessibility. We were going to address all the issues that they had when we do our plans and specifications. When we come back, to award the project. We will discuss all those accommodations that we're going to be making. We had a couple business owners offer to have detours through their stores to the Mariposa parking lot, so that will gain access for more people. We offered that we will be supplying more signs and banners of, pardon our dust, stores open during construction, parking in the rear. We're going to be supplying all that before the project starts also. The hope is to start the project right after the 4th of July. This gives us summer months, so no winter or weather delays. And then the goal would be to be done in September, hopefully the beginning of September around Labor Day. We see with the engineer that the project 60-day calendar days is a sufficient amount of time to complete the project. The one tricky part of the project, it will be including undergrounding for the water main and sidewalk construction with concrete, and then also asphalt repairs. So in order to get a contractor to meet the public works standards, to do all that, hopefully we get enough bidders for the project, because the primary contractor has to do 51% of the job. And during design of the project, we will discover more of the estimate of the project and how we will be able to advertise for bids. Tonight's staff seeks council's approval for the design and their input of the sidewalk ADA enhancements and the water main replacement on West Sierra Madre Boulevard from Baldwin Avenue to Hermosa Avenue. That would be the water main would go from Baldwin to Hermosa, but the sidewalk enhancement will be in this section here of the West Sierra Madre Boulevard. That concludes my report. I'm here for any questions.
Thank you, Director Semino. Do we have any questions for the director? Councilmember Parkers?
Analyst Carlson, can you put that picture back up? Thank you. So during the project, are you going to close it kind of at the crosswalk there by Kirsten Court and then the crosswalk over by Auburn? Is that kind of where you anticipate closing the street down?
Only when necessary. The plan is to do the project in concurrent with the undergrounding and the sidewalk, but we will be opening that street after the day's work, and we won't be closing if it's not necessary. If they're only working on curb and gutter and we can keep, say, westbound lane open, we will have the contractor do that.
So we wouldn't expect to have like a weekend when the street's closed?
No, we would plan on Friday afternoons that the streets are opened. Sidewalk, we are only doing half the sidewalk on the south side. We won't be taking the whole sidewalk out going all the way to property line, because that would be a disruption of the whole front. So we're planning on leaving the 10 feet existing, maybe taking 2 feet off and then doing the extension to leave that sidewalk open during the project.
Fantastic. And then, so fast forward to Halloween of next year, so we would be able to have dining then on the street, and this would fall within the dining program and the on-street dining program, and follow those rules, so you'd be able to, because when we had that program, we had kind of at least 2 different categories. One was sidewalk dining and one was, kind of the full punch out of the curb. So then these would all fall within that sidewalk dining, and would it be next to the restaurants or would it be out towards the curb?
Yeah, so our goal in this, in extending the sidewalk, is to keep the restaurants on the west side there, to stay on the sidewalk and not have a blowout where we're taking the parking away from those businesses.
Right.
Enhancing that sidewalk gives them more room. We've done a small calculation. They'll be minus a couple tables that they had from the patio, but their businesses are fully open now also. So anything that they are able to do on the sidewalk will be a bonus. We also allow them to go in front of neighboring businesses with a letter from that business owner to be in front of their businesses, say after their hours or even during their hours, whatever the business owners allow. But our goal is to keep that area with all the parking that we can have and have the sidewalk dining on the sidewalk. So it'd be like an enhanced sidewalk dining.
And the sidewalk dining would be on the, you said on the south side of the street next to the restaurants?
Yes. Yeah.
Got it. And then and there's plenty of room on the street for cars to pass there going down the street. You said 12 on westbound and 14 on eastbound, I think is what you said?
Yeah, yeah, there will be plenty of width for through traffic. It will slow down traffic a little bit more because it will narrow it a little bit. The angled parking on the south side will be changed from a 45-degree angle to about a 38 to allow those cars to stay in their traffic lane that they're backing into instead of going across the street. And also, we're hoping that that might curtail some of the U-turns in the business district so they don't get a ticket.
Great, thank you.
Councilmember Lowe, did you have?
How many, you said if you'll increase parking overall, is that because of the readjusting as well as some other measures?
So we, technically we'll be reducing parking, but from removing the existing patios that were there for the COVID time, we increased 6 parking stalls from then. Doing this project with the ADA parking stall, we'll be removing 3 stalls there. But our hope is to, on the north side, during the water main, we're gonna relocate the fire hydrant that's in front of Old City Hall to more of a corner, so we'll increase the parking stall on the north side of the street there. And then on Windsor Lane, by having that bow out there, we're gonna increase 1 parking stall there. So I think in our net, we're gonna be losing 1 parking stall in this area for the project.
Any more questions? Mayor Pro Tem.
In your discussions, was there ever any discussion of making Windsor northbound all the way through to Montecito?
We researched that a few years back. The neighbors weren't excited about that, but we do see that that would be a viable traffic change in that area. We can do another study in that area after this move has been made, just to see the flow in that area and see if that can work out. We can have our engineer take a look at that also.
Yeah, I worry a little bit about people trying to come southbound when it's not permitted southbound.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we're going to have plenty of signs. Even if we did move it up, there's still Montecito Court that accesses that, so you have to have your signs on each side. So we're hoping, that it'll be notified pretty good.
And then Mr. Gordon spoke earlier about the north side of the street, and I know that this project doesn't contemplate anything with respect to those sidewalks. But in this picture, the bow out that comes out in front of the playhouse there at Auburn,
yeah,
that's existing, right? There's no change.
This is existing here. Mr. Gordon is asking about this sidewalk here, along here. If we increase that by 2 feet, it'll add more pedestrian access on this sidewalk on the north side. So when we do our design, our final design, we will look into that and see the feasibility of it. With today, the curb and gutter, concrete and everything, we'll have to really determine if that would be worth the 2 feet to extend it that, but we'll look into that and see. Another idea we had after Mr. Gordon spoke, because he did come to our open house or our town hall, about replacing some of this vegetation here in front of the theater with, say, pavers and make it more a seating area and gathering area for the theater's events. That'll probably help him out a lot there too. So we can look into that during the design.
And then my last question was, as part of your, I was glad to hear that the plan is not to shut down the boulevard for any, measurable period of time. I do worry a little bit after the period after the summer when school starts before the end of the project because of the drop-off and pickup congestion that that adds to traffic in that town, and then obviously diversions is just going to. So I don't know if that's part of the planning in terms of staging it out so that perhaps a lot of the closures could happen before school starts.
Yeah, that's going to be something that we're going to have to discuss with the contractor before, during, and the whole time during the project. We went through the calendar trying to figure out a good time to do it, and there is real no good time, and I think the worst thing to interrupt would be the parade. So that's why we really are working on summer months. And I do know school starts in August now, so give us much time.
Sure, thank you.
To Mayor Pro Tem's point, yeah, early August, and the drop-offs are staggered. My middle child, I generally make him walk to the middle school, but sometimes he can convince me if he's ready that I can drop off the younger one at the elementary school. So the times are staggered, And so I never go down Hermosa because that's too narrow. So I go all the way to Lima and I come back through, because if you go to the middle school, this is just something to keep in with the flow of traffic. If people are dropping off at both schools, you have to come back because you have to go northbound on Cannon in order to drop off at the middle school. So you necessarily, but to reduce miles, you would go down the boulevard. So I would just encourage that we have enough signage to maybe encourage, I guess you go down to Mariposa's pretty narrow as well. So to your point, when school starts in the mornings, at least, it's gonna be tough.
It's going to be tough, and similar to our project in the canyon, we can maybe delay the start of their project. I know 8 o'clock is the big traffic time of our downtown. Maybe we see about delaying the closing of the street until after that traffic hits. But that's just something that we will work out with the contractor during the pre-construct meetings.
But as far as I understand, Baldwin remains open almost no matter what, and Kirsting, the access to the Kirsting lot off of Baldwin will be open. All of the parking spots on North Baldwin will be open. I mean, so the east side of downtown will be sort of business as usual.
Yeah, that's correct. The only time we do go into Baldwin is to connect the water main, so there will be a plate there probably for some time. We do have to run the main all the way to the one that's on Baldwin. But once that's past Kirsting Court will always be open, and they can, have a left turn only out of Kirsting Court to go towards Baldwin. We've already started thinking about that. But that's the only interruption would be on Baldwin, would be the tying in the new water main.
Great.
And on the east sidewalk on Windsor Lane, someone of my width, I have to, I think, walk sideways down that, so that's welcome. And that curb is very high. Is it going to remain high?
No, it'll be able to be lowered because we are extending it out, and there's a crown of the road. So when we're coming out, we're meeting that crown a little bit further out. So we probably lower that by 1 inch to 2 inches. I think now it's like a 10-inch curb, and we don't get the floods that we used to get also. And that would be the reason why there was a 10-inch at one time, but it just really hasn't been rebuilt for years. I mean, the old city hall is sitting there, and that sidewalk's as old as that building, it looks like.
And as far as the speed limit through that area, so when we put the patio dining through there, it dropped to 15 miles per hour. Are we contemplating leaving the downtown district at 15 miles per hour or bringing it back up to 25?
So that's a difficult one. Currently it's 15 by suggestion. Those are warning signs that make it 15. Those aren't regulatory. In order to make it regulatory, it would be a city ordinance. We would have to study it, and we can do it. We do have 15-mile-an-hour streets in Sierra Madre. They're mainly in the canyon. But we could look into that, and maybe at the same time we look at the circulation around Windsor Lane and Montecito Court there too. But to make it regulatory, which it would be quite difficult, because what they do is they'll do a study of existing traffic, existing speeds. If everybody's going 30 miles an hour, they're not going to allow us to lower it to 15. Speed limits are really set by average of existing speeds. So. But we'll look into it. We can always leave the warning signs up too.
Suggestions, I like
Suggestions.
that. Yes.
Yeah.
Any more questions? Okay, let's.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, I did misspeak. We will be redoing the surface of the asphalt on Sierra Madre Boulevard to Baldwin crosswalks. So there will be another interruption time, but then that's pretty much a grind one day and a cap the next day. So.
Okay, so but most of it stops at Kirsting Court?
Yeah, yes.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Semino. Let's go ahead and open this up to public comment. Madam City Clerk, do we have any comment cards?
Mr. Mayor, there are no comment cards or email for this discussion item.
Thank you. Seeing no public comment, let's bring it back to the council for discussion. Any comments? Discussion?
Do we need a formal motion?
Well, so I'm really disappointed that we're going to increase traffic into that Auburn parking lot, because that's a gem.
Secret.
Yeah, I know, it used to be a secret one, and I agree with the the mayor, I too have to walk down sideways down Windsor Lane, especially on the east side of it, so.
I almost had to park in the Auburn lot tonight. I contemplated it.
There you go. No, and in all seriousness, yeah, I think this is a fabulous project. I'm really excited to see it. I think it'll really enhance the downtown, so kudos on pulling it all together.
I was really glad to hear both from Councilmember Lowe's presentation as well as Management Analyst Carlson's presentation at the Natural Resource Commission last week about how receptive the downtown business district owners and operators were to this, and that there was really just a lot of support, which, you know, typically for something that's going to cause delays and interruptions and, you know, kind of chaos for some time, you usually get some grumbling, but it sounded like pretty much across the board, you know, there was lots of support, which is just, it's great, and I think it's just a testament to the relationship that our Public Works Department and our city has with those business owners, and just the constant communication and the fact that we hear them and listen to them, and as Director Semino said, are going to take their feedback into account in doing the planning. I mean, that's just really, I think, something that sets us apart, and hopefully, you know, that can be demonstrated and folks will want to do business in the city.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Adding to Mayor Pro Tem Kreeb's comments, what's kind of nice also was that the collaboration between the business owners. It wasn't just they all agreed and they loved it. It was also, well, we could use, you know, our business to have you come through, or you can use our sidewalk this part then, and they really started interacting and collaborating really effectively. So it was really nice to see that community sense really shown in our downtown district.
It's good to hear. So if there's no more discussion or comments, it's not clear what the motion is asking for. Is it for approval of the design, or that's what it seems like?
That is correct.
Okay. So is there a motion?
Move to approve the conceptual drawings for the downtown water main installation sidewalk enhancement on West Sierra Madre Boulevard.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None opposed? The item carries unanimously. Thank you. Now we are close to the end of the agenda. Do we have any future items, ideas for agenda items?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, please.
I'd like to discuss what Mr. Gordon brought up tonight, a possible program for funding projects for nonprofits.
And did that have to do with the fees? Is that what we're looking at, our fee schedule, or
No,
funding?
I think we're talking about funding.
Okay.
Potential programs that would enable us to provide some kind of funding for anybody who might qualify.
Thank you, Councilmember Goss. Is that clear, City Manager Reynoso?
I'd like a little bit more direction. I believe Mr. Gordon was asking for fee waivers for building and planning permits, maybe?
I know in his email he was, but I think today's public comment, he actually was speaking to what Councilmember Goss was discussing.
He's interested in a funding program that would allow Women's Club and other organizations to get help when they need it.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, please.
So kind of to bookend one of our agenda items, I've been seeing a fair amount of an uptick locally and statewide from various government organizations about looking at ways to continue to improve our gun safety laws. I know the county just actually introduced and I think passed a suite of gun safety laws, and the way I read the release had done a fair amount of analysis in light of the recent Supreme Court decision in New York, and I'm just thinking that it would be good for us to, you know, given our limited resources, to be able to piggyback on some of these larger, you know, regional agencies and the work that they're doing on the legal side, to perhaps, you know, consider whether any of those, obviously the county measures will apply to us, so I'm not saying duplicate those, but in terms of looking at what other cities might be doing and being able to utilize the legal analysis that they're doing, and whether there's anything that would make sense for our town. I don't think I made any bones about it, but when we discussed it before, I'm not super excited about this concealed carry thing, but obviously there's not much we can do about it given the prevailing law. So I just would like us to think a little bit about whether things make sense to, you know, give tools to our law enforcement, you know, if there were to be issues within town, you know, give us the tools necessary to be able to remove guns from an unsafe situation. Maybe it's gun storage, other things that I think would make sense for us. I'm not looking for any sort of sweeping performative, you know, anti-gun legislation, but just things that I think would make sense for our town and to maintain the safety here.
So if I may, Mayor Pro Tem, and I think we have a question from the city manager. Like for me, there are rules, regulations, and laws on the books. So I'm a big proponent of education, and people that own firearms. Maybe the education is decades old. So I'd be a proponent of education, and maybe even looking for granting or funding on trigger locks and/or safes to then properly house your firearms, especially when there's children in the homes, because there are specific laws regarding that. So if I may on that, and you had a specific question?
So for Mayor Pro Tem Krebs and Mayor Garcia, on March 28th, we do have tentatively scheduled a gun control education grant, gun locks, trigger locks discussion item for council.
Okay.
So we will we'll definitely add the additional questions that you had, and we'll see if we can incorporate that into that discussion item.
Yeah, I know it wasn't super specific, but I just have been seeing an uptick, like I said, in various agencies. I think Senator Portantino introduced something recently, and again, all of those obviously would apply to our local level because they are at a broader governmental level. But and to Mayor Garcia's point, maybe it's just a matter of also educating folks as to what, even if it's not in our specific ordinance, what types of other laws will apply and that our police department can enforce.
Thank you. Any other future items for future agendas, or items for future agendas, rather? Nope, seeing none.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.
So you start-